So growing here on the edge of this field is what I believe to be one of the most underrated edible mushrooms that we have here in the UK. So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to safely identify it, where you might find it, and how to cook with it. Stay tuned. So this beautiful cluster of mushrooms that we've got growing here underneath this tree is in the Bolete family. So that is the same family as your porcini mushrooms, your ceps, and it contains lots and lots of choice edible mushrooms. Now this one here is a mushroom called the Slate Bolete, Leccinum durasculum, or something similar to that. My Latin is a little bit rusty. It is one that is slightly more uncommon, but equally as delicious as some of its cousins. So first things first, I'm going to teach you how to identify this family of mushrooms, and then I'm going to give you some tips and tricks how not to get poisoned and pick the wrong one. So, can you see me? So first things first, we are going to pluck this mushroom from the ground. Beautiful. Look at that. The Bolete family are really quite distinct when it comes to mushrooms, and that's why they are often sort of taught as beginner-friendly mushrooms. So the first thing that you need to look for is this traditional mushroom shape. So it has a cap, it has a stem or a stipe, and underneath the cap, instead of gills, instead of like a blade-like structure like you get on your shop-bought mushrooms, it has sponge. It's made up of this sort of porous, spongy surface. Now, boletes are all spongy underneath the cap. We also noticed that this is growing from the ground, and we have checked at the bottom to make sure that it is not growing from an egg sac. Some of the most poisonous mushrooms that we have here in the UK grow from this weird sort of like vulval sac thing that comes from the ground. So yeah, we just checked the bottom of this. We can see that it's got a healthy dose of mycelium on the bottom, and the stem has come straight from the ground and hasn't emerged from a sac. So we know that this is a bolete because it's got that beautiful spongy surface underneath the cap. Now, if you're a beginner forager, there is a rule with boletus mushrooms, and that is no red and no blue. So check your mushroom over and check it for sort of red coloration. And then we slice it in half and we check whether it goes blue. Now, if it goes blue and has red on it, then I would leave it alone if you are new to identifying fungi. That's because some of them out there can make you sick. Things like the Boletus satanis, or the devil's bolete, the Satan's bolete, can make you spew. And you don't want that. That's not a good thing. So if you are a beginner, then no red, no blue, and I'll show you what I mean. Now here, growing on the side of this roadside, we have a fungus, and if I pick it and turn it over, I see it has sponge underneath the cap. Now this is showing me some warning signs which, if I were a beginner forager, would be telling me not to take this mushroom home. So if you see the cap has got a slight red coloration, and if we turn it over, the gills are sort of strange rosy red. And then if we cut it in half, we will see that the flesh on the inside stains this vivid ink blue color. So when we say no red, no blue, this is what we're talking about, this sort of vivid blue color and anything with a red coloration. If you follow this rule, you will never make yourself ill. However, there are a few choice, delicious edible mushrooms that you will miss out on, but you can always learn them over time. So if this is your sort of first foray into fungi foraging, then no red, no blue, you keep yourself safe. And if anyone out there thinks that they know what this mushroom is, then pop it in the comments below. Right, back to the Slate Bolete. So this bolete that I have in my hand is part of a subfamily of boletes that is also very easy to identify, and that is the Leccinums. So you have boletes, which is the big wide family, and then you've got little groups in the bolete family that are slightly different to each other. So this is part of a group, a subfamily called a Leccinum. So Leccinums all have this strange sort of flocculose stem. Now flocculose is a sort of word we use in mycology to describe this dirty granular pattern on the stem. And once you've seen it, it really is quite distinct. It is not uniform like dot work. It's like someone's got a blowtorch and just blowtorched the outside of it. So if you've got a bolete and it has a dirty looking stem like this, then you probably have a Leccinum. Now, there are no poisonous Leccinums Leccinums in the UK. Some of them are better eating than others, this being one of them, the Slate Bolete, but there are no poisonous Leccinums in the UK. It contains things like your brown birch bolete, your orange oak bolete, so lovely sort of edible mushrooms that are good for drying and stuff like that. So we're going to have a little look at this one here. So it has sponge underneath the cap. It has this fantastic sort of stone to buff coloured cap. We have that dirty looking Leccinum stipe there, looking beautiful. And then when you cut it in half, you'll notice that as the air hits it, this top bit here and a bit of the stem sort of goes this stone colour, which is what gives it its name, the Slate Bolete, because it looks sort of like slate coloured. It can look a little bit bluey, but it is mainly sort of grey. Now let's do that again just to make sure you've seen it. We've got beautiful Slate Bolete here, and we can cut it in half. This one's really wormy. As it oxidizes, this top bit goes slightly darker and more of a sort of a grey colour. Now, this one is no good to eat. Look at the inside of that. Something's been munching on that already. Now, so far so easy, but this mushroom does have a few lookalikes in the Leccinum family. Like I say, none of them toxic, but you want to be sure that this is a Slate Bolete because this is one of the most delicious of them all. So Slate Boletes grow in relationship with this tree behind me. So you need to know your trees a little bit in order to be able to differentiate this between, say, the brown birch bolete, which it looks sort of similar to. So the tree that we've got growing behind me and trembling in the lovely summer breeze is a white poplar tree. It has this beautiful pale gnarled bark and these pendulous branches that end in these almost serrated oval leaves. But the real giveaway with the white poplar especially is that the underside is white. So on a breezy day like this, it actually gives us a signal by flashing the whites of its underleaves, and we know that there is a poplar and beneath it might be delicious Slate Boletes. You're welcome. Also, just so happens here in the UK that councils planted this absolutely everywhere because it's quite fast growing. So you'll find lots of sort of motorways and sort of industrial areas lined by white poplar, which means that you find Slate Boletes in some weird places. One of the weirdest places I've ever found a Slate Bolete was outside a KFC drive-thru in Eastbourne. There we go. But now we can safely identify them. Let's go pick some. Oh. This one here is the most beautiful of the bunch, my lord. Look at that stipe. Oh, that resonance, it sounds really dense and meaty. I'm going to put my microphone next to it to see if we can get the sound of the stipe snapping. Listen to that. Oh. That is an absolutely textbook Slate Bolete. What a beautiful thing. And it looks in really good condition. Can you see it? Look at that little guy there. Look, you can see that he is just starting to grow. This is what we call in the mushroom world pinning. So this is a pin. And you can see the cap here is still attached to the stem. And he's absolutely beautiful. Not much meat on him, so I'm going to leave him for a couple of days maybe to get a little bit bigger, and then I'm going to come and pick him. Oh, there's another little guy. Look, there we go. That's an even better example there. So that is the pin of the Slate Bolete. So you can see that the cap is still attached to the stem, so you can't actually see the spore surface. Gorgeous. This little chunky guy with his bum cheek cap. Let's pick this. Oh, my word. Look at you. Absolutely gorgeous. This is going to make some good eating. This patch only flushes about twice a year, so it's really, really exciting when it happens. Oh, look, there's another one. Look how tiny he is. Oh my God, this is dreamy. So these ones here are slightly older, so we'll see what condition they're in. Always make sure that you are 100% confident in your identification before picking any wild plant or fungi. So there we go, not a bad haul for a morning's foraging. And if we give them a sniff, They are delicious. They smell almost like dried porcini mushrooms, but with a little bit less sweetness, a little bit less vanilla. But like with all these things, the proof is in the eating. So let's go home where I'm going to teach you how to prepare these and how to cook with them. Stay tuned. Whew. Look at that sea view. This is a good a place to cook as any, I reckon. So I'm gonna set up my field kitchen here on these steps, and then I'm gonna show you one of my favorite things to do with wild mushrooms. So today we are going to be taking these beautiful slate boletes and we are going to be preserving them in oil. Now this is an old Italian recipe, usually done with button mushrooms. It's like a deli style marinated mushroom. And I love to do it with these because they are big, they are meaty. Now first things first, the only part of the mushroom that we're going to be using for this recipe is the cap. This stem here, like other Leccinum species, can be quite tough and fibrous when cooked, so isn't necessarily what you want in your antipasti. However, we take the stem off, but we keep it. So this, when I get home, is going straight in the dehydrator. This is actually the best tasting bit of the mushroom. Dehydrate this and add it whenever you're making a stock or like ramen, anything like that. Add these dried stems in and it is the most intense mushroomy flavour. So yeah, the slate bolete stems are really, really good and an excellent thing to have in your pantry. However, in a couple of weeks' time, I have a wild pizza evening coming up and I want to serve some wild antipasti on the side. So what I'm going to do is make some beautiful preserved mushrooms with these slate bolete caps. So firstly, cut the mushroom into 1/2 centimetre slices and discard any that look like they could have been nibbled on by a bug. This one's got some wormholes in, so we're going to chuck that over there to do its thing. Next, into your pan, put equal parts or roughly vinegar and water. Now, turn on the gas and heat gently until it is simmering. Then add a pinch of salt, your mushrooms, bring it back up to temperature and simmer for 2 minutes. So the mushrooms now are semi-pickled and it is on to the most important part, dressing your jar. Now this is where a lot of the flavour will come from. You're getting lots of lovely mushroominess, a little bit of porcini mushroom coming from the slate bolete, but lots of what is going to make this a showstopper is going to happen here in the jar. Into the jar add 1 clove of garlic, some peppercorns and some dried ancho chili. Now that they've cooled, you want to add your mushrooms into the jar. Now this probably wasn't the best place to do this. And in fact, if you want proper sterile conditions and things, this is best done in your own kitchen. However, this is field study. We are outdoors and we are having a lot of fun. I should have done more mushrooms. Look at that, I've only got 1/2 a jar. Oh well, you can only do what you can do. I have 1/2 a jar of delicious smelling mushrooms. So at this point you could call it quits. You could top this up with oil and let it sit in your fridge to become tasty and delicious. But this is field study and we have a few more magic tricks up our sleeves, including this device here. But you weren't expecting that. So this here is a thing that is sold for cocktail making and it is a cocktail smoker. So what you do is you load some wood chip into here, you set it on fire, you start the fan. Oh, don't tell me the batteries run out. Thank goodness for that. You click the button to start the fan, which then blows air through, which gives you lovely cold smoke out the end here. So basically this is a cold smoke generator. So you can cold smoke things with it. So we're gonna cold smoke our mushrooms before preserving them in olive oil. So not only will the olive oil be lovely and garlicky and mushroomy, but it will also be smoky. Oh, it's a condiment in itself. Right, let's do it. So now you need to wait for at least a week to let all of those lovely flavours marry together and for the olive oil to sort of seep in and out of the mushroom. So these last for a good long while, but in my house they don't usually last more than a couple of weeks because they go on absolutely everything. So take them along to your next summer picnic, put them on top of a pizza, which is what I intend to do with my workshop in a couple of weeks' time, or even better, drape them over a burger. It's very, very good. You'll be king of the barbecue. So once again, thank you very much for watching. My name is Joseph. This is Field Study. These are marinated slate boletes in olive oil. And until next week, take care. That's a wrap. Next.